Hello, uh, welcome to the Comedian's Paradise. This is a podcast where we speak to comedians and clowns from across the comedy world. They're all mavericks, all people bringing their own unique flavor to the world of comedy. Now, today's guest is my first clown teacher. He introduced me to the wonderful world of clown. He is a clown maestro that learned from the brutal and fantastic clown teacher, Philip Gaudier. He's a man that teaches clown from across the world. He's helped many top comedians find their clown and conquer the world, like Andy Osho, Dan Lees, and I think, was it right, and Spencer Jones as well, Mick?
I got loads, mate. Yeah, loads. Spencer Jones as well. I mean, I've actually listed them down here because I thought you might ask. So I don't want to miss anyone out. So if you want, I'll tell you all the people I've had. There's a lot of brilliant people. I've been very fortunate.
But for anyone that doesn't know about you and your comedy journey, give us an overview of like who you are and how you became a clown teacher.
Well, I guess I've always gravitated towards trends that make me laugh. And I've always kind of been, like all kids are, they're a bit daft and silly and all the rest of it. I don't think I ever really grew out of that. But I think my journey into the sort of wonderful world of clown, if you like, was via mime. Not that I'm saying mime is clown, but that's the first thing that kind of impressed me years and years and years ago when mime was really cool and Dave Bowie was doing mime and all this sort of stuff. And I saw it in the streets of Paris, and my mother lived over there. And I just loved the fact that this guy was creating stuff out of nothing, and people were watching. And there was a really, really concentrated atmosphere on him. And I thought, wow, I'd like to be the center of that, and I'd like to do what that guy was doing. So I went to a couple of mime schools. One was Desmond Jones, who's now passed away. And I realized quite soon that maybe I wasn't quite as good as mine and that I wanted to be. But during that time, we had a couple of teachers came in. One was a guy called John Lees, who was a clown teacher. And I do remember really loving what he did. And I also, there was John Wright came in as well, did some mask work. And another guy, I forget his name now, but he was one of the members of the first real improv group, Keith Johnson's improv group, uh, Time Machine. And so all these kind of three things were kind of my first sort of influence on something I felt like actually I was half decent at doing those things. It took me in a certain direction. Um, so I kind of dropped the mime really, and I started pursuing that more. Then I went to someone called that's Frankie Anderson, who was a really lovely woman who was my next sort of clown teacher. I did quite a lot of stuff with her. I always remember John Lee's saying, you must come out and treat your audience like friends, and that we are going to have some fun together. And I always thought that's rather a nice, optimistic way of looking at it. Anyway, then after that, I sort of chanced really. I saw Complicite doing their first ever show, and before anyone really knew who they were, and I just loved what they did. And I went to a clown workshop with Simon McBurney and Hutch Elamani, who's unfortunately no longer with us. An absolutely brilliant practitioner and comedian and clown for anyone that's seen him, and just a wonderful, wonderful man. And I love what they did. And I think they were pretty much fresh out of Le Coq. And also, they've done quite a lot of stuff with Philippe that I recognized when I went for Philippe, the influences. And then, obviously, after that, I went to Philippe. In fact, I worked for Complicite, I think, one show, and they all told me, go to Philippe, go to Philippe, go to Philippe. So I went to Philippe. I spent the year with Philippe, and also. I stayed on in Paris and I sort of worked with his school a little bit. But yeah, the clown was something that was a real revelation to me. I just loved it. I mean, in Philly, in the way that he set things up, he brought so much out of me. I mean, I never realized I could be quite as daft as I was in that particular workshop, which was a really, really nice feeling. And it was a month as well. So every day every day. We sort of went in and, did clown. And it was really, really wonderful. And I suppose, I was already performing and stuff, more in the area of physical theatre and, stuff with Complicite and other groups as well. Um, but clown was definitely something that seemed to strike a chord with me. So I teach other things as well, but clown is very popular, especially at the moment. So, supply and demand, I tend to teach quite a lot of clown.
But it's the circus clown stuff isn't really that popular, but the theatre sort of kind of clowning,
Yeah,
that's
yeah, yeah.
taken a big boost.
It has, yeah, yeah. I mean, if you talk to a layperson, I say I teach clown. I have to immediately tell them I'm not talking about circus, squirty flowers, big shoes, all the rest of it. I'm not talking about any of that. It really is the fun. I mean, this is my little thing I say about clown in a nutshell. It's the fun and the joy to be ridiculous, to be stupid, to find your idiot and make that and make that accessible to your friends, i.e., the audience. For me, that's all clown is. It's nothing else. It really is just tickling the funny bone of the audience with your fun, your stupidity, etc., etc. And I always say, I add a little quote after that, which is, I encourage students to be as stupid as they are, but that comes with a health warning. Don't be any more stupid than you already are, because nature has made you stupid enough. And it means sincerely your stupidity. As soon as you start forcing that, it really hurts to witness that. You cannot force it. It has to. Joy and stupidity go together,
Okay.
meaning healthy stupidity. Force
And,
and stupidity are unhealthy.
but what about when people find clown bits that work and they have to keep repeating it? How do they create
Well,
the
that's
magic?
another thing altogether. You've got to find your clown, and you've got to be clever and repeat it as well. And and sometimes it can take a while. You can find a gag or something, a routine or whatever, through improvisation, through ideas, whatever it might be, especially if it's improvisation. Then it becomes very, very difficult to repeat it. But you can, because then you have to learn it a little bit like a script, really. You have to sort of take, okay, what was it I did? Outside eye tells you what you did. Or, if you're really clever and you've got a really good memory, then you've got to kind of remember exactly what that was. It becomes a little bit clumsy to start with, but at a certain moment, you can start repeating it. You can start repeating it.
And is that the stage where you become an actor and you try and like,
Yeah, I hate sort of the word actor when it comes to clown, because I don't feel that clown is anything to do with acting. I would maybe call it intuitive memory. Maybe.
okay,
Intuitive memory, that yes, you do have to repeat that thing, but you've got to repeat it in exactly the same way as you first did it. And that is going through it ABC, ABC, ABC. So maybe there is a sort of actory type thing there, memory recall, whatever, but it is still the idiot that is performing it. And that's where it isn't an act, because it's the idiot who is playing that gag or that joke or whatever it is. So we can't it can't be mechanical. It's got to be the same life and joy and fun and the same idiot that did it in the first place.
okay. With so don't go into I don't if you don't let me know if you don't want to go too into your process in this, but when you're working with a show and
Mm-hmm.
a group's found something or that person's found something that works, what is your process for getting them to repeat it? Because I'll say one thing. There was a comic that I know called Sam. He's in Shoot from the Hip Improv. And he
Mm-hmm.
says when he's doing a joke again and again, he will deliberately change little words so it
Mm-hmm.
tricks his body into thinking it's
Mm-hmm.
a new bit. And I
Mm-hmm.
know that a lot of some big comics, even if they're doing a proper page 20, they always put new bits in to
Yeah,
get that
yeah,
excitement
yeah,
when they're
yeah.
doing it.
Well, I mean, I know Morecambe and Wise, apparently, you know, I mean, they have a lot of stuff in their show. It looks totally improvised, but apparently they were really, really, you know, really, really tight, and they repeated kind of all those all those little things that seemed to be coming out off the script or whatever. They repeated them all. I think it really depends on the performer. I did a show many years ago with a really, really talented guy called David Sand, who now works in TV, but used to be part of People Like Us. And it was a one-person show, and he was so quick, I could not keep up with him. And so with him, we used to video everything. And then if we thought we almost did it like takes, if we thought it wasn't a good one, we would just scrub it because otherwise you're looking at stuff all the time. And then, you know, it'd be an improvisation, and then it would be, you know, we'd have a good one, for example, and we'd look at that, and we'd look back, and yeah, we would look at it, analyze it. Okay, now let's see if we can repeat that, and I would help him to repeat that, and then obviously it's a ping pong between director and performer. You're looking, you know, they do something, and you think, oh yeah, maybe we could do that with it, and that takes it in a slightly different direction or whatever. But I think when you're working with in a show, I mean, yeah, then that sometimes a lot of head scratching, which I just noticed I'm doing now. There's a lot of head scratching goes on because sometimes you get really, really stuck, you know. You get really stuck and you think, oh God, you know, everyone is a bit stuck. So maybe just go on to another bit, come back to it, whatever. I mean, when you're working with really good people, they just seem to come up with stuff. You know, I mean, they just find stuff in the room. They just, you know, they bounce off each other. And really, it's just writing these things down and then, you know, helping them to refine it. So in a way, yes, what you're saying there about acting it, yes, it becomes a script. You do have to act it. But when you take a clown show out to perform it, then you tend to be, you know, it tends to be a little bit loose, if you like. You don't know how things are going to go if you're playing something where you're working on getting the audience on your side, but you're repeating something which maybe seems a little like ridiculous to start with, but then they catch up with the game. Um, you know, maybe some nights you do that a little bit longer than you would normally. Maybe sometimes people start to improvise and go off the so-called scripts. Then you sit in the dressing room later and say, "Oh, that was, you know, that was really cool. What about trying that tomorrow night?" Some things that you thought, because clown material really is bad. And by the time you've done a rehearsal period, you're thinking, you know, you remember laughing at it the first time, but now it is seemingly excruciating and painful. And you're thinking, God, can we really get away with this? You just got to take it to an audience. And the thing about good clowns is they know how to work an audience. They know how to play in relationship to an audience. And with those little threadbare bits and pieces that you have, you start to build up a show. But not everyone now works with a director. A lot of people, maybe they get a director in for the last week. Some people don't work with the director at all. I don't know if, have you seen that wonderful show, Weir, by Natalia Palimides?
I heard so many
Well, you
things
must,
about her.
it's coming back in January. It's amazing. But you know, it's a one woman show. She did it all herself. She never went into a rehearsal room. She looks at it. She filmed everything at little tryout spots, and then she would look at it, and she'd have all these little bits of paper on her wall saying what, you know, giving each little scene a title, and then she'd start thinking about which one can I put with which one, and does that one work? And she directed herself really via film, via recordings. And when you see the show, you just think, wow, that is amazing, because it's about an hour and 25 minutes long. You know, just her on stage.
Yeah, I've heard she really pushes the boundaries
Oh,
and
she's
she's
amazing.
really unique.
Right, she's amazing. She's unique. I would just advise anyone to go and see her. And she's on at the Soho in Walthamstow in the second week of January or something.
Okay. I'll
No,
give
I've
her a
seen her
go.
twice. I'm going. I'm going again. Yeah.
So, who are other clown shows that you've seen that are amazing? Because I can say two that I thought were incredible. So, a couple of years ago, I went to the Fringe. Julia Masley's show was, oh my God, amazing. Ha ha ha.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
was absolutely brilliant. And then
absolutely.
I watched Dan Tiernan. He was amazing.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
I watched, I'll have to say this, Furioso's pretty decent as well.
Yeah, I don't know those 2. I know Julia Masley. I know her quite well actually. She was did quite a lot of my workshops. And yeah, ha 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 ha. Seven Ha's is an absolutely beautiful show. Absolutely beautiful. Yeah, and she's brilliant. She was also in a show with that Dan Lees directed a little while ago with someone called what's her name? Tatiana. I can't remember her second
Taxine.
name. Huh?
Taxine?
Yeah, that's
Tatiana
the one,
Taxine.
yeah,
Yeah.
who's brilliant. And also another woman called Julie, and I forget her second name, I don't know if you know it. It was Anna Karenina, and it was directed by Dan Lees, and it was really
Okay.
fabulous. Carlo Jacuzzi, Vitamin, have you seen that? That's a lovely show. I mean, that was a lot of, The Establishment as well with, Dan Lees and Neil Foster. They're
They're
lovely.
amazing.
Spencer Jones, I love. I love Spencer Jones stuff. Um, Gosh, I'm just sort of bringing the old Spy Monkey, of course. I love Spy Monkey, brilliant.
So,
Yeah, can't really think of any more. I can't not offhand. You've kind of, but those are just ones on top of my head.
so, did we just do a hot seating thing, which is, what's it called, with writing, where you put people on the spot and they come up with never mind.
What was that?
Uh,
Say it again.
I did a sitcom writing workshop, and they said that if you put people under pressure in a certain prompt, like I did there, that
Yeah.
often sometimes gives the better answer.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, what was I getting at?
Well, I do that with mask work, half mask work. I hot seat people, but I don't have them sitting down. I have them standing up because, I want them to be active. I suppose in a way I do that a little bit with clown as well. I put people under pressure. Purely because that's when they make mistakes and that's when they're potentially amusing.
Yeah, you definitely did that. I definitely had that in a few of your workshops, but I remember them quite clearly.
Mm.
You did a workshop where you asked me to tell me about my day, and I did, but it just sounded so ridiculous and stupid. And then you put me with some other things where I looked back on the time and I should have just gone with it, but I held back a bit because I was worried about looking daft. But
Right.
you were prompting me to
Be
let
daft.
go, let go of that and to
Yeah,
go
yeah.
further. But I
Yeah.
noticed that I should have just gone with it. But I was so scared of looking stupid with some of
Well,
it
it's
that
kind
I
of
should.
why you come to a clown's workshop really, to look stupid and daft, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
But the trouble is, we don't want to, we're brought up not to do that. And it's very difficult to reverse the habit of a lifetime. Whereas, I'm trying to get people to, pull the rug a bit from under their feet, so they're slightly baffled, so they don't think, because thinking is just the death of comedy, in my view. But when you're not thinking, you're more in the intuitive, and things just happen and come out, and that's when we have the sort of comedy potential of comedy gold.
And you're listening.
And listening, yeah, yeah. Listening to your audience, yeah, because they're always telling you, are you on a win or are you not on a winner?
Yeah.
Are they smiling? Are they laughing? Or are they totally silenced? And in clown, you have to react to whatever is coming from your audience.
Funny thing with a lot of clans when I was in Goli and another theatre workshop is that we do the most basic and simple exercises where if you explained it, you're like, how in the world is this funny? But if you actually go and do it and you see
Yeah,
someone
yeah.
do it, you get the big laugh because of
Yeah,
their
yeah.
unique qualities that work. And then
Yeah,
you can't
yeah.
always explain it.
No, no, I don't know how it works. It's just sort of magic. I mean, for me, so much of comedy really is about making mistakes. Comedy is when you look at sitcoms and you look at, you know, like mistaken identity, confusion, being in the wrong place at the wrong time, falling over, whatever it is, sort of turning the corner and there's the last person you want to see in the world is suddenly coming down the other way. And how do you deal with that? Being caught out, basically. It's fundamental. It happens in children's games. Children's games are so akin to clown, if you like, just the games where people are caught out and we laugh. And children are so much in the world of clown because they don't have all the information, and clown doesn't have all the information, but they say yes to everything. They always say yes. There's never, can you do you know anything about quantum physics? They're never gonna say no. Never. It's disappointing if they say no. Oh, well, okay, let's move on to the next person. Which idiot here knows something about quantum physics? You're interested in the one that says, "I do," but you know they don't, to see what they come up with.
It's very clever what you do at the games, and that you give them the game, but you don't explain it fully, so they know. You leave you leave a bit out with a lot of the games you give us in your workshop, where they expose their silliness, and you deliberately put them in an awkward situation.
Yeah, I teach them as much as they need to know, knowing that, if I teach them everything, then we're on a different sort of workshop. And so
Yeah.
I do, a lot of the preliminary stuff I do is teaching simple tasks, and then, okay, now you come and perform it. And of course, I know that they don't know it all. Rhythm things, songs, whatever, uh, things like this, and then perform it to the audience is a nice way into clown because you see all the confusions and you see all the, you know, mishaps and everything. But one thing about that is as soon as someone starts to go, again, the habit of a lifetime, I must get it right, and they lose their fun, no one's going to laugh. But if they have the fun to be in the shit, then, potentially people laugh. People really enjoy the fact and their reactions. Reactions are so much part of being caught out. It's a good player. Are their reactions amusing?
We think too much. We think we're too important a lot of times. We take ourselves too seriously as we get older.
Mhm.
Don't we? As we become adults, we take ourselves too seriously.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. There is a lovely thing, I think it was John Cleese said it, but I don't know if it's originally John Cleese, but I heard it once. Um, we don't grow old and stop playing. We stop playing and grow old. And I think that's rather a nice little saying. And it's very, very true. Very true.
Well, we're scared of looking a certain way. Like in
Yeah.
business meetings, we don't want to look like someone that doesn't know what we're doing,
No,
because we're
absolutely.
worried we'll get underhanded
Yeah, yeah.
or dodgy deal
But
or
the funny thing is, if you go to an interview or something like that, and, obviously you wanna present your best side, but if you sort of, you trip over when you come out of the interview, you get your leg caught in the chair, or, you go out through the wrong door and end up in the cupboard or whatever it is, you're hating it at the time. But the paradox is once you've finished the interview, it becomes one of your wonderful stories that you tell of, embarrassment in your life. You'd love to cut that out at that particular time, but we'd be so boring if we didn't have those stories, and we all had them. We've all fucked up at some time. We've all made an idiot of ourselves. And, you get those evenings where you're sitting around discussing these ridiculous things that happen to you. As soon as someone starts to tell you one, then it's like you've got a little queue of them in your head. You've got a little queue of them in your head yourself because you want to tell them, and everyone's trying to get another one in. Oh, that reminds me of when that happened to me. All of those things you wish weren't happening at the time, and it's strange, isn't it? Because they become really funny, and it's what we write our sitcoms around and our comedies around.
and the big thing with sitcoms and with clowning is the biggest laugh we get is we remember a time where we completely made a tit of ourselves, and when we
Yeah,
see
yeah,
someone on stage, we're like, "Thank God we're not them."
yeah, yeah. But we sort of identify it with because human beings are fallible, and we make mistakes. And I think we laugh at them because it's fun to laugh at them, but we also, in some way, we laugh at ourselves because, it could have been us. That's the sort of thing. Oh, that reminds me of this, it might be a totally different situation, but it reminds me a little bit of my fallibility as well, because we all recognize it.
Mm. And a lot of, but the difference between with clowning and stand-ups, well, American stand-ups, where they do the thing where they go, "Am I right, girls?" or stuff like that. They they get the big laugh for saying a harsh truth that we don't always say at the dinner
Hmm.
table. But and as you said before we started the podcast, um, stand-up is the joke, but the clown is you're the joke.
Stand up tells jokes.
Yeah, that tells the joke, sorry. And
Clown
then
is the joke. Yeah, yeah. That's the fundamental difference between one and the other.
now you mentioned a lot of great clowns there. Uh, what is their unique quality where they show their clown that works so well? And how is it that the exercises you do helps show someone's clown?
I think, I mean, I don't, teaching clown, I don't think you can teach it. I think you can just help people bring it out themselves. Sometimes what covers it up is they're tense. They're not relaxed enough. Sometimes they just need a little bit of a kick up the backside. Sometimes they need to be put in a situation where they're a little bit under pressure and it starts to come out. Sometimes they are just doing stuff that is really covering it up, and you've just got to try and find a way in. Sometimes they get, they are doing a lot of stuff that isn't working, but within that, there is something that does work, maybe a little moment. And, but they don't stop with that. You've got to tell them, well, look, something was working there. So why do you move on? Why don't you repeat it? Why don't you stick with that? Because there's something there that could become a number, but you've rushed on. Because I didn't think I could repeat it. And then sometimes I say, well, do it again, do it now. And people laugh again. Well, there you go, you just repeated it. And I say again, well, try it again. Well, look, there you are, you've repeated it again. With clown, repetition is a really wonderful thing with a good sense of timing. Because if you kind of repeat in a good sense of timing, it makes you really ridiculous. And you stick with one thing, or you repeat with a good with a variation on the theme. So you stick with that thing. And that's why I say, why do you feel you need to move on? Now you're just in territory where you can't find yourself. But we're always fishing around looking for that little nugget of gold. And when we find it, stay with it. So really it's just pointing things out to people, and trying to take a few of the layers off them to reveal something that's already in them. It's not really that I'm teaching them, because for me, clown is nothing to do with technique. It's not like that. Okay, now today we're going to do the double take. Now today we're going to do the slipping on the floor. Now today, bring in your flowers and we're going to do squirty flowers. Now today we're going to do makeup. We're going to do the clown mode. We're going to do. It's not, for me, it's nothing to do with that at all. It is purely and simply the idiot within. And sometimes there's a lot of layers on top of that that need to be peeled off. And so really, that's what I like to think I do, is to help people to find that. That's already there anyway. We're all idiots. And when you get someone who comes to a workshop, they pay you because they want to discover that. That's what I try and do. We're all uniquely funny in our own way, but it's just about helping people to find that. Nothing that you teach or.
Now, this is going to be a very weird analogy, what you said, but I remember watching some football podcasts, and I remember former football players of Man United. Now, I'm a Liverpool supporter, so I want to know all their secrets, but no, with when you see Rio Ferdinand or Patrice Evra or others, like they talk about Sir Alex Ferguson, when he was trying to get the best from players, he knew that with Paul Scholes, he couldn't get the best out of him by shouting at him. So what he would, but with certain players, he would, like with Patrice Evra, he said, what did he say? He said something saying, "You're not going to do too well today." And Patrice Evra got so wound up that he went to go and prove himself. And then at the end of the day, Sir Alex Ferguson shook his hand and said, "Well done." But and I get the feeling with you, Philip Gurley, and a lot of clown teachers, in some ways, it's like you're a football manager and you have to be a good understanding of people to get to push their buttons and get
Yeah,
the best out of them.
I think it just takes practice really, because I think when I first started teaching, I do teach a lot of other stuff as well, but you sort of you're a little bit of a carbon copy of your own teacher because you don't know anything else. But then you start to find your own way. Then you start to find your ways of you know helping people, etc., etc. So yeah, in some ways, I quite like that analogy of a football manager. You've got your team and a few subs on the in the workshop, and yeah, you're very much trying to get the best out of them with all the stuff you're giving to them. And I try to set up a really fun atmosphere in class. And that starts off with, games at the beginning of class, stuff that amuse people, because then we have to bring that amusement into what we're doing. And the big thing with clown is to remain optimistic. Remaining optimistic. As soon as you become pessimistic, no one's going to laugh.
And I got another strange analogy on this. I watched the true crime podcast with Dave Courtney, and he was a Cockney criminal that was after the craze. And he says whenever he got in a situation like having to sort someone out or deal with drugs, he would say, I don't want to do it at the ump. So I always put myself in a good mood before I do it. I don't know why, but that's what's coming to my head.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
you're right.
Well,
If
that's it. I
people,
mean, playing at the beginning of the class helps me too. The atmosphere I try and create also helps me to be in a good mood, and start the day off, as I want to start the day off. Definitely.
it gets people out of their cells and not
Yeah,
worrying about how they're
absolutely. Yeah,
perceived.
it gets you out of your head. I mean, the head is the big destroyer. It's the thoughts, and dare I do this? Oh no, I don't want to do that. Oh shit, I've got to go and talk to that person. All the rest of it. When we're enjoying ourselves, we don't think like that. We dare. We just get on with it. We dare. We make jokes. We want to be part of banter, etc., etc. As soon as it's the other way, we wake up feeling a bit beside ourselves, which happens. It happens. Of course, we're human. But we don't wanna be telling those stories. We don't the jokes are falling flat. We feel a bit inhibited. We feel this, we feel that, and it's Mr. Mrs. Doubt in the head.
What's the one word? And they always say this, right? What's the worst that could happen? But we rarely follow it. We don't
Yeah.
like to loosen up. People say, what's the worst could happen if you go and talk to this person or that person?
So what's the worst that could happen? I guess you just have a real floppy day, yeah? If you're talking about a clown workshop, or you have a real flop of a show. I mean, that does kinda destroy you for a while. And when I say a while, not for very long, but it's like, you go and have a beer, you have a chat with someone, it's all gone. But, it doesn't feel good, but I think one of the things why we wanna make people laugh, why we wanna play theatre is it's such an exhilarating feeling, when you've done a good show, when you've done, when you've had a good time in a workshop, whatever. It's such a exhilarating feeling. I go into a show when I used to play shows, or I sit and watch, something I've directed, or a class works really well. I feel great afterwards. It's a great feeling. It's why I did it in the first place, to be honest with you. Absolutely why I did it in the first place. Being a bit of a shy kid as I was, I felt I needed to get out of that. And I used to be terrified when I went off stage, absolutely terrified. But when I came off, I felt bloody brilliant. And I thought, what? I used to wonder, why am I doing this to myself before I went on? And then when I came off, I realized why I was doing it, because it felt very good.
But those nerves are a good thing. I used to think it was a bad thing,
Mm.
but I think it's a good thing when you get
I
nervous or
Yeah, it
uncomfortable.
gives you a little kick. As long as, once you find your stage legs, as I call them, meaning that you've done it a few times and you don't carry that nervousness all through the show or whatever, then yeah, it's a good little thing. And I did actually later, when I was performing, I did start losing stage nerves altogether. When I'd done a show for a little while, whereas I used to have it all the time, and I was a bit worried, but actually it was fine. It was still the same when I got on once I started. So, actually, I did, yeah, apart from the press night and that sort of stuff, I sort of found once I got, done a few shows, I just sort of lost that, really. I certainly don't really have any nerves when I go into a workshop anymore. I used to. Used to be used to make a class plan. It would be about 25 things longer than I needed.
Did you ever used to get nervous? Because I mean, for myself, when I run comedy shows, sometimes I get a bit nervous when I'm booking a show or when I used to book open mics. I'm not too sure about what comedians are going to come in. I'm not too sure how the audience are going to be. And I'm always a bit like, I try and prepare as much as possible.
Yeah.
If you create a good experience, they're going to come back and it's
Yeah,
going to
yeah,
be.
sure, sure.
but I'm always cautious about how I'm acting, how it's going to come across to them, or
Mm.
yeah.
I don't really teaching now. I've done so much of it, and that's not to say I'm lazy or anything. I kind of go in just looking forward to seeing who's in the room, really, just hoping there's no, you know, idiots in the room, if you know what I mean. Because it's nice just to have a calm, enjoyable experience rather than someone you just feel like, "Oh my god, who is this person?" Who's just sometimes you get one in a group, you can't it just seems to be someone who's a bit awkward. But generally, it's I mean, the reason I carry on teaching is I love being in the room with people that are enthusiastic and people that are finding stuff and people that are in trying and having a go. And it's nice the interaction during the day, during the lunch hour, during whatever. It's just I enjoy being in the room, and most of the people I'm in the room with now are kids. Which is great. I mean, I work a lot with American students. I do physical theatre and stuff with study abroad programs where I've got, about 19, 20, 21. I'm always amazed sometimes at, wow, how talented some of these people are at that age. It's a joy to be in the room with them because they haven't long been children and they still have that child energy, not that they're childish, but they are childlike, and I've encouraged that anyway. Um, I love the energy in it and working through it in a rehearsal. Yeah.
Yes, the enthusiasm rubs off.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And just, listening to their stories and where they're from and what they do and witnessing them in the workshops and witnessing them at their best, having fun and for me, having fun liberates the imagination. So I don't think too much in a workshop. I don't really, I don't ask people to think too much in a workshop. I try and keep it fairly flowing along and very much, we have fun and we're using our intuitive nature, our imaginations, basically.
Uh, yeah, it's now following on from that. What's been a moment in recent years where you had someone that was really tense and they struggled with the
I've had
workshop?
many. I have had many. But, I mean, yeah, you sense it straight away if you're doing a workshop. I mean, I do a few day workshops, stuff like that, and some people just come from work and all the rest of it. Sometimes it's not the case, but sometimes it's just some people just need to thaw out a bit. Some groups, group dynamic, very, very different. Sometimes you just do a little simple game. You see everyone is really uptight. You just got to bring them slowly and out of themselves, and playing games is wonderful because people start to relate to each other in a very, very different way. And that's so important really that you set up that platform. So yeah, and sometimes you get someone who's a bit difficult. Sometimes someone will leave your course because they find it very difficult if it's a longer workshop, but that doesn't happen too often, I have to say. But yeah, you work with all sorts really.
But the thing that I think as a teacher that you must get is when someone changes from like a duckling to a swan in terms of the cloud. That must be like when you have those moments of transformation with
Yeah.
someone that must feel great.
Sometimes it takes a bit of pushing sometimes, and then something wonderful comes out. Sometimes people just take to what you're doing like, duck to water. There's all sorts of ways really. I like to feel that if I do a workshop with a group, a long workshop, it won't always happen in a day workshop, but a longer workshop, that everyone makes some sort of progress. And I try and look out. I don't want people going out as they came in. I like to feel that everyone makes a little progress or a lot of progress in the time I work with them. And that's when I'm very pleased and satisfied when I feel like, yep, everyone here has made some sort of progress. And the vehicle is there. And if they don't, well, it's not really, I don't feel it's my fault. I have really tried. But that's when I like, that's what I feel, if I feel like, There's been a little bit chink of light with everyone, chink of understanding, chink of something coming out. Even if it's not a massive step, it is some sort of step. But some people are just naturally stupid, you know, some people are naturally clowns, they're naturally ridiculous. And you just set up and they've got wonderful imaginations, and you just put them up there and immediately, you know, something happens.
Yes.
But I've also had people who are incredibly funny, but you sort of just know that they'll never be able to repeat it. You just get that sense that, and that is the big nag, you know, to find your comedian, if you like, and then be able to repeat it night after night.
Yeah. That's the,
That is the nag.
that's something that I don't think anyone has the complete answer to. I think
No,
no one
no,
has the
because
answer
some
to that.
people are very, you know, some people are very good at it. You know, some people are very good at it. All the people we see who are doing runs of it. And some people don't, you know, they come to a clown workshop because they just want to have a bit of fun. They don't necessarily want to be a clown or whatever. Some people come, you know, I've had stand-ups come because they want to find an extra little string to their bow. I've had actors come along because they're interested in clown. They want it, maybe it helps them in their performance, the way they perform as an actor. I mean, you know, you come to a clown workshop, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to go off and be a clown or you have that desire. I just feel like types of, you know, studies, if you like, they all kind of help. You know, if you wanna be an actor, it's good that you do things like melodrama, you know, it brings out a certain side of you. Are you good at clown? Are you good at this? Are you good at that? Because it makes you more of a rounded performer. And you look at some, you know, like Bill Murray, for example, I think he's a very rounded performer that, you know, you feel like he could go in many, many directions. Feel that with Robin Williams. You know, many kind of actors you feel like, well, not just an actor. There's something about them. You can imagine them being, you know, really good at clown or really good at this, really good at that. You can kind of see all the ingredients really from various things they might have done or just, you know, just the fact that they are a little more there's something about them, that is more than just an actor, I think. Do you follow what I mean? That you can almost feel that they have other little parts of them, and I just think you do as you do as many different types of things as possible, especially if you find them challenging, because it can just help you as a performer in whatever you wanna do, in whatever you wanna do.
Oh, but it also makes you, yeah, well, it helps you get better because you're pushing yourself past your comfort
Yeah, yeah,
zone.
yeah, and I just think, you know, whatever you're good at, and it's good to try out all these different things. Whatever you're good at, you know, it will help you, and you'll see that extra little bit of someone if they're good at some, you know, if they're good at something like clown or they're good at, you know, whatever it might be, you'll see that extra little something with them because they've found that, and it will come out. It will always come out. I mean, a lot of things I did weren't necessarily, comedy necessarily. I mean, I did some shows that were not necessarily comedy shows as such, but because I have some sort of ability, I think, at clown or sort of spotting a stupid idea, that did seem to come out a lot in rehearsal, and quite often, you know, I was allowed to keep it in shows as well for a bit of, like, comic relief, if you like.
From what you said there, have you seen the film Slumdog Millionaire?
Do you know, I haven't, I should have done. Yeah, no, I should have done. Film I've wanted to see, but it's just one of those on the back burner. So I haven't, no.
So I'm going to say it in a way that doesn't completely ruin the story for you. So it's, I don't, but I'm going to say what I found interesting about, oh, I don't know. Like, so it follows this guy who's in the slums of India and he gets out of it through a very remarkable way. But it follows how his life, he was able to answer. Oh, I may ruin the story now.
It's
Uh,
alright, go on.
But the thing that I found interesting about it, and whenever I talk to comedians or clowns on a podcast, is that his journey was helped him answer all those questions. And what you said there about like, you're making it like a performance journey. You should try different things because one, you form your own unique character and unique style rather than just choosing what's comfortable
Mm,
or the trodden path. Try something different and
mm,
it'll make you a very unique performer. That's
I
what I
think
got
so.
from what you said.
Yeah, yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah. No, absolutely.
But
I
it's a
think,
good film.
the industry of acting, performance, et cetera, you've got agents or whatever, they try and put you in a certain box. This person does this person does that. And I think it's very good as any performer in whatever art form it is to try and break out of that and say, no, I do other stuff as well. I can do this, I can do that. And I can also mix it up. I'm not just that box you're putting me into
Th-
because it's
There,
more interesting.
well, that's the thing that I found interesting about the stand-up and the clown world. Not
Mm,
many people do the mix in between. The only people that I know of that I think do it are Jordan Brooks, Martin Moore, even though I've never seen him, but he studied clowning.
mhm.
And I think to a degree, Stephen Catling does it a bit, but most people either choose one or the other. And
Yeah,
a lot
yeah.
of agents like to say, we need to know what we're getting and what we're
Yeah,
selling.
yeah. Well, I've had a number of stand-ups come to my workshops. I've never seen any of them, to be honest with you, but they've come because someone has told them, "Oh, it was really good," helped me much more with my relationship with the audience, helped me, find a little bit more ridiculousness in what I was doing. So as I say, I've never seen these people, but yeah, I've had a few come to my workshops.
Th- So for me, doing stand up and being in a couple, well, not couple, but doing Goalie for a year, doing your workshop, I was doing Matteo Destro. Um, I think the thing that I've got from it is that I can play, I can handle completely shitty situations better than
Yeah.
other stands, and that I will play with nothing a lot of the times.
Mm.
And I'm comfortable doing that. That's what I think a clowning workshop they do for stand-ups. They can make it easy if you let loose of your material not working or this not working as expected and just going with the flow a bit better.
Yeah,
However,
if it doesn't work as a clown, you have to bring it back on board. Yeah, it's called playing the flop, and sometimes you can do that on purpose. And it was, but we're optimistic with you. We like you, and everything is falling around around you, and we are optimistic that you will do something wonderful to save the ship. If it's flopping badly and you lose your fun and you just, "Oh my god, what have I done here?" or whatever, or even if you, you don't quite know what to do, then it's, then that's a bit of a disaster. It's a recipe for disaster. But, sometimes flop is written into a crowd show. And the audience love it, and they wonder, "How the hell is this gonna go?" And then, of course, the clown does something wonderful, really stupid to save the day.
I've got two things to say. And I'll mention one thing that happened in a couple of gigs ago. I was testing some new jokes out. The first two did okay, but I did two in the middle and they weren't doing too well. And
Mm,
I forgot my set a bit in a way. So I thought, why don't I just talk to the audience? And I forgot the rest of the set. So I spoke to this one guy, had a bit of interaction, played in my character, and apparently I asked what was going on because he was behaving weird. And he said, "Oh, we're just getting a pizza." And then someone came in with the pizza, the delivery man, and I asked, could I get a pizza slice? And yeah, I brought the delivery man on stage,
mm.
and then I got the pizza as well, and I took it on stage. Um, yeah, it went quite well because it was such a stupid and absurd
Well,
situation.
yeah, it's also because they realise that this is happening right, this is really happening right now. It's nothing you've planned. So
Yeah,
people love it when you kind of go off the script and it's kind of obvious that this is not planned at all. But I mean, I did a workshop the other night, and there was a guy there who was struggling a little bit, and I kept saying, "You're playing too much. Stop playing so much. You don't need to play so much." And he kept imitating what I was saying, which was, "Don't play too much. Don't play." It was getting a bit irritating. And at some point he did something, and I said, "Now stop. look at the audience to see whether they like what you've just done. And I say, and do they like what you've just done? Now he could have said, yeah, it seems to be going all right, which was a total lie. But he told the truth. He said, no, they don't like what I'm doing. At that moment, everyone laughed. Everyone laughed, of course. And then you could see the light come on in his eyes. And after that, we really liked him. And I had a really good time with him because suddenly the, 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 the fun was there and he had found a game. And that is really, we have to be so bloody honest. If it's not, if it's, if he'd said something else, then the silence would have continued. But because he said, no, they don't like me, everyone just pissed themselves because he was reading their thoughts.
What did he do in that moment? Did he play with the moment and increase it more?
Oh yeah. It just got him. It just got him on track because I just carried on playing this game with him, and then he stopped. He didn't play so much, and then he was more relaxed, and he became more accessible to the audience. He was just doing a lot of stuff. It was just couldn't believe him. Couldn't trying to be more stupid than he really was. Basically, trying to pretend he was more stupid than he really was. But at that moment, it was great, and he came and thanked me afterwards. Thank you to that. No, I really understood something in that moment.
Could I ask what when
I
you're
was going to say that is a little bit like the flop I'm talking about. He's very much in the shit. He's very much in the shit. How does he save himself? Well, being honest and saying something rather surprising. The audience don't like me, and that just reversed it. Anyway, sorry, what were you going to say, Marvin?
oh no, it was what did I want to get? I've forgotten now. But I think yeah, just what I want to say. How what are things you look for when you're trying to provoke people to find out what's when you're trying to they're performing? What do you look for when you're trying to provoke them to get something?
Well, I have some sort of provocation sort of techniques where really I set up various things I want them to do, and it's very ambiguous because I know that I can always play it that they will always make a mistake. They'll never get it right. Ambiguous, drum roll followed by three beats. Is the last beat of the drum roll the first beat of the 1, 2, 3, or is it, for them to come on? You come on after the drum roll with three beats of the drum, but they will never win. So, and then I'm just asking, why have you come on? Why have you come on early? Why have you come on late? Whatever it is. So I just look to always be put with people in the shit. I set up a thing where all my exercises start with a drum beat, and sometimes people will walk on forgetting that, and I say, "Have you forgotten something?" I don't think so. I think you might have done, and you see them very, very bit confused, a bit baffled. People already start laughing. If they then they realise that there's a game going on here and that they are in the shit basically. Sometimes people want to be clever. They want to say, "Oh well, I thought that you said this and that and all the rest of it." They want to be too clever. Then we don't laugh. Sometimes people say, I'm sorry." We won't laugh at sorry, but we laugh when when they're genuine because they've been caught out. So I'm just, it's not really. I am constantly looking to catch people out, and because I'm playing the authority figure in the workshop, and make that very, very clear. And my job is to try and catch people out, and invariably, it's funny. It's very funny
Okay. So
because clowns are always in the shit. Clowns are always in the shit, always moving, seemingly solving one problem but creating another problem. Always in the shit, but always optimistic.
okay. I'm gonna talk about one situation that I had in Gurlier that was quite magical.
Hmm.
And what Philippe did was brilliant. Um, I was, it was in a mass workshop. I couldn't see what I was doing, and I approached it really confident and trying to be all. And yeah, that went terribly. But Philippe spotted something in there, and he just had me walking up and down, and then what are those black things that curtains or something that they put
Oh, you
on the
mean
stage?
entrance and exit point?
Yeah, those what the
Well,
curtains
he
or
calls
what?
them paravent. I think that's the French word, but I call them screens basically.
Okay, yeah. So
Entrance and exit screens. But in his salon, his room, he has curtains, doesn't he?
fair enough. But
Yeah.
those black moving exit and entrance
Mm,
things, and he had me walking up and down, and there was a moment where I walked really close to bumping into one of them,
mm,
and people started laughing, and I didn't know why they were laughing, and so I just kept on doing that up and down,
mm.
and I just did some ridiculous dances, and it went really well. But it was so brilliant that he was able to spot that, and
Yeah,
that was
yeah.
the prompt that
Well,
they needed to get the
that,
comedy.
that's being a good teacher, really. That was taught these things. And I don't know what it is. I've done it so long now that I feel like I can sort of spot something. When someone does a whole load of stuff, sometimes you just see a little thing and think that if they exaggerate that a little bit more, it could be funny. Or maybe they're doing too much. So let's maybe reduce it right down to very, very little, like minimal. Someone who's playing the macho, if they're sort of doing all this business, and they would do it really small, whatever, you know, and they would never have thought of that. Take it right down. Too big. Take it right down. So just sometimes, I don't know what it is. You just have I mean, I've done it for so long now that I just sometimes I'm fishing around as well. They're fishing around. I'm fishing around. I don't know what's going to happen, but sometimes, I just spot it and think, okay, let's go with that. Let's see what happens when we do that.
How does teaching clown also help you become a better performer? Because there's a big thing in stand up that a lot of stand ups will say, and I'm not too sure if it's true because I know in Goliath and a lot of theatre places, a lot of them are professional performers as well as teachers.
Mm.
But in clown, no, in stand up, they say that those that can't do teach. That's a common misconception that's said, but I don't necessarily believe in that because you see more of what goes on behind the scenes when you teach because you have to. So how does you as a clown teacher
I
and
think,
used to be a performer
yeah,
help you as a performer?
I think they're very different jobs because I don't think, for example, John Wright performs. I don't know if he ever has done, but he's a brilliant teacher. He's a very, very good director as well. So they are very, very different jobs, but 20 people could do all of it. Um, I think when I started teaching, it gave me more of an understanding of maybe the subject because at first, you're a bit nervous and you're trying to make it work. You come out with all sorts of stuff. I mean, sometimes you think, oh, that kind of taught me something. I didn't, what came out of my mouth, answering a question for someone else, actually I found rather informative for myself. I know I've had people writing loads and loads of notes, and someone in particular was asked, would they send their notes around to people? So I got a copy as well, and I looked at it. I thought, well, that's not too bad actually. I don't remember saying that, but it's actually quite clear. I wouldn't have thought of that unless I just said it in a workshop. I don't know about making you a better performer necessarily. I don't know if it does or not. I think it's just, you're a professional performer. It's part of what you do. Maybe you teach as well. I don't really know if it makes you a better performer or not. You certainly come out with all the right things, I think, when you're teaching, or you hope to. Whether you follow that when you're performing, I don't really know. I guess I mean, they do go hand in hand. They are very different jobs. Whether I think they do inform each other, but whether it makes you a better performer or I think actually if you're a performer teaching, I think that is quite helpful because you've done it as well. And I think that with directors, I always, I do work with directors sometimes who have to perform, and I think it's very good for them to perform to see actually it's not as easy as it looks. So maybe they have a different perspective when they're actually directing people. Maybe not so realizing actually, you've got to help people get over certain barriers and and find something, and it's not so easy.
Now, for anyone that's listening in right now, there's a big quote that you often say. You say, there's two questions. You say, eat the audience first before they eat you.
Hmm.
explain that, but also, what is your advice on people doing their first clown workshop and how to get the most out of it?
Okay, so eat the audience before they eat you is basically you've got to get up there and you've got to do something. You've got to do something that takes them on a journey. You can't go up there and apologize for being up there. You can't go up there and be insipid, and so I say it in workshops because sometimes people do slightly apologize for being up there. They're not used to it. They feel a bit afraid, whatever, whatever. So I say, you have to get up and impose yourself on the audience. That's not being aggressive or anything, but that can just be purely you come in. You just purely come in, but you have the right spirit when you come in. You don't come in looking at the ground or whatever. You come in very much in relationship to the audience. You have jokes in the eyes. You're ready to play. So therefore, that whole thing of you've got to eat the audience before they eat you is very much about you have to take them. You have to take them. You can't any little doubt a performer has, then the audience has a big doubt. Any little apology for being there. Might be an invisible apology for being there. I'm a little bit nervous, whatever. Yeah, you are, but you can't show that. You've got to eat the audience, if that makes sense. Otherwise, they will. They're gonna devour you. You will disappear. So that's that one. What was the other one?
Oh, what was the thing? What would be
Best to
your
ask me one question at a time because I've got a very bad memory, and I've
okay,
totally
no
forgotten what
worries.
you just said on the second one.
So the question was, what advice would you give someone wanting to do their first clown workshop? And what would be your advice for someone that's interested in doing clown? We'll start with one question. Like you said,
Yeah,
what
yeah.
is your
Well,
advice to
yeah.
someone doing their
If you
first
wanna do
clown
your
workshop?
first clown workshop, go and do it. I mean, that's it. Go and do it. Don't be scared. Be open. Have fun. And pick the right teacher. And I say that because sometimes I see things and, this is just my view, but I see some of the kind of interpretations of clown, and I don't agree with it. I don't think it's particularly healthy. You know, create your clown character. That I hate that because it assumes that it's an act. It's an act. It's like here's my clown character, and here's my Hamlet, and here's my this, and here's my that. For me, clown is not about acting. To find clown is not about you acting. It's about you finding something inside of you, basically. And that's not about, my clown's name is Busy Lizzie and and I'm a little bit angry and I'm a little bit this and I do this and I do that. So so, you know, first of all, pick a decent teacher. And there are many, many around. There are many, many around. Um, so, and just go and do it. Have fun, do it. Because you won't know unless you give it a try. So if you're going to do your first workshop, every workshop I do, I've got someone that's doing their first clown workshop, and I'm always delighted. Oh, well, welcome to the wonderful world of clown.
May get me in a bit of hot water, but what is the thing you would advise someone on finding the right kind of clown teacher? Because I know for stand up, if you're looking to get a good stand up comedy teacher, you need to be looking at someone who's a professional who's been doing it for a while, who's actually working. Because there are a few charlatan stand up comedy teachers that are in the open mic and they know some of the basics, but they don't know anything
Yeah,
about,
yeah, sure,
they're very
sure.
limited in what they can teach.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I feel I'm pretty decent.
You are.
We don't need to go any further, do we? No, I mean, there's a lot of people, Dan Leeds is a very good clown teacher, Julian Marsley, Hugo Penn, uh, Aitor from Spy Monkey, and, there's a lot of good people around who kind of, and maybe it's because I've come out of Philippe's school, and I think there you've had most probably the best clown teacher possibly in the world, teaching you. So you kind of look through those eyes a little bit, and those people have also been influenced by Philly. I'm sure there's others, and Jamie Wood. There's others, and I apologise to them if they're watching this, and I've forgotten to mention them. But I know there are many, many good clown teachers around. I can't really say who's a bad clown teacher because I don't really know who they are. But I know that, I mean, I many, many years ago, I went to a school to audition, or kind of to have an interview to become a teacher. And I taught a couple of things, I taught Buffon, I taught clown, and I taught, you know, neutral mask and stuff like this. And I went along and I saw a clown performance, and I thought, my God, if that is clown, then I can teach anything. And so I went to have the interview, and he said, "What do you teach?" Said, and I said, "A mass of stuff." Because I thought, well, if that's clown, I can teach anything. And so he told me two things that he wanted a teacher for, and I kind of put my foot in it because they were two things that I just thought, if that's clown, I can teach anything. And they were two things that I'd never taught before. He wanted one for the first year and one for the second year. Actually, I researched it and it all worked out perfectly fine. It's good because it was a way into teaching those other things as well. But it was all cute little characters with their stupid names and, it's kind of very mimey and very, well, I wouldn't say clowny, but that was their clown performance and it was dreadful. So it's that sort of thing I'm talking about, really, where we sort of make these characters that aren't really the person. We don't really see any comedy. We just do these kind of what I call twitty characters. And that I find a bit annoying. And I don't find it clown. I don't find it clown. If it's not funny for me, it's not clown. Clown is funny. Sometimes people say, is it anything else? No, it's not. Clown is funny. If you say, oh, that guy's a real clown. That guy is such a clown, in life. You're not saying that guy walks around with a red nose on and makeup and squirty flowers or whatever. You're not saying he suffers. You're just saying the guy is bloody stupid. That's what you mean in life when you say, well, dictionary definition. That guy is a clown. He's a bit. He's got a strange logic. He makes mistakes. He does this. He's a bit of an idiot, basically. You don't say all the other stuff. So anyway, I don't want to knock them. I don't want to knock other teachers who maybe do teach that, but it's not my thing at all.
Okay.
I feel it's more healthy, really, more into who they are is what I look for. And also, I think it's good for performance. It's good for all sorts of performance. Whereas some of the other stuff is, I don't know what it's good for, to be honest. Because if I go and see it, I'm rather appalled. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it doesn't touch me. It doesn't touch me at all. Too much so-called stuff and not enough content, meaning cute little hearts and imagination.
No connection with the audience.
No
Too much
connect.
of it.
Well, sometimes you get things where everyone is loving it, but personally, I'm not. For those
Fair
very
enough.
reasons, I don't really see real people, and I think with clown,
Ah,
you see real people. You really see the heart. You really see the imagination, and they really make you laugh. On this level of it's just so bloody silly. They are so stupid.
what with you see a lot of clowns that do characters, but who's someone that you'd say plays a character, but you can still see their humanity
Well,
and the,
I think a lot. Yeah, I mean, there's I think Carlo Tracuzzi, for example, in his show Vitamin, is very much a clown. Very much a clown. But then you have maybe Dan Lees and Neil Foster when they do the establishment. They are not very clowny, but they are playing some sort of character. Marnie Godden, she plays a character, but she's very, very clownesque. Um, I mean, I teach or I try and impart people not to use character, but it doesn't mean then you can't start playing comic characters because I think it's whatever you want to mix with it, really. So I think a lot of people play a kind of character with clown. Have no problem with that, but it's clown is not necessary. Well, clown isn't a character. It is a character because we're all different characters. but it is us at our most stupid, us at our most, actually, when I see like Dan Lees and Neil Foster, their characters are really kind of half baked in a way. It's not like they're stuck in their characters at all. Same with Marley Godden. She's not stuck in her character, hard and fast. They're funny. They're comic characters basically, and they have a certain clownesque quality about them. And there are other people too, and I just point those out because they come to my head. But I think there's a lot of people do that sort of stuff, comedy characters, and great, it's good.
Each to their own, would you say?
Sorry?
Each to their own.
Each to their own, yeah, it's what you make of it, isn't it? It's what you do with it. No one wants to no one wants to see a workshop up on stage. You've got to sort of put yourself into it as well. Whatever, if you're good at clown, you're good at characters, why not mix them up? Makes sense.
Well, yeah, a bit like fusion food.
Fusion food,
Like-
yeah.
Like McDonald's chicken sandwich.
Oh,
no,
dear me,
the spice
please.
bag. The spice bag.
Yeah,
The spice
don't
bag
eat
in
what
Ireland.
it is, to be honest with you. I hardly know what it is, but okay, I'll go with you on that, the spice bag.
So it's an Irish Chinese dish with their oriental spring onions, chicken nuggets, and chips.
Sounds like
And
you
then a bit of
enjoy that.
gravy.
So you enjoy that one, do you?
It's all right. It's amusing being an Asian man that likes egg fried rice
Yeah.
with
Well,
roast pork.
I guess it's a good little filler at times. Yeah.
Now, for any comedian or any clown that's listening in right now, how do they find out about you? And what's the best way to contact?
Well, I have a website, mickbarnfather.com, and all my stuff's on there,
Okay. Guys, I hope you've enjoyed the episode. If not, don't tell anyone.
Yeah, no, keep
make
it
sure-
yourselves. I thought he was a twat. Keep it yourselves.
Yes, exactly.
I want to carry on making a living.
or you could suggest it to your enemies, and then Nick still gets.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
But I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you give this episode a review on Amazon, iTunes, or Spotify. Next guest is going to be a sitcom writer called Edward Rower, and I'm going to try and get the 2 Points of Lager and a Packet Chris sitcom writer and producer
nice.
Susan Nixon.
Yeah.
So I hope you've enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys soon. Okay.
Cheers. Bye-bye.